Welcome to Securing America with me, Frank Gaffney, the program that's a kind of owner's manual for protecting the country we love against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to God's glory and that of his kingdom. We've been hearing a lot this week from Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. After all, he's the point man for the Biden administration's relentless enabling of millions of illegal aliens to get into our country. Consequently, during congressional testimony this week, he's been something of a human pinata for legislators of both parties whose constituents are increasingly frantic about the damage he's doing to the public health, public safety, and national security. Perhaps with a view to deflecting incoming fire from that quarter, on April 27th, Secretary Mayorkas opened a new and very ominous front in the Marxist revolutionary wrecking operation he and the rest of Team Biden are mounting against America. He announced that his department is establishing an Orwellian Ministry of Truth called the Disinformation Governance Board. It's not hard to connect the dots on how such an effort to restrict speech will fit into the larger program being implemented by those like Barack Obama seeking to fundamentally transform our country. What is being created is nothing less than a digital gulag for restricting our liberties and ultimately turning this freedom loving constitutional republic into another repressive communist wasteland. For example, the mechanism for enforcing vaccine mandates, heretofore known as vaccine passports and now being marketed as smart health cards, will provide infrastructure for the surveillance, data weaponization, and control mechanisms the Chinese communists call the social credit system. That totalitarian enterprise will be used, among other things, to track and punish those deemed guilty of disinformation thought crimes. If you think this can't happen here, think again. It's happening before our eyes. And if, as Ronald Reagan famously put it, we don't want to be reduced to telling our children and our children's children what it was like to live in the United States when men were free, we must oppose and defeat the Marxists, both foreign and domestic, and their toxic agenda. I want to extend a personal invitation to you to learn more about this digital gulag and what we can do about it at an extremely timely webinar on Monday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please register to join us at stopvaxpassports.org. To talk about all of this and more, I'm always thrilled to be able to say we are joined by Charles Sam Faddis. He is a member of our Committee on the Present Danger China, a man who served our country with great distinction, both in the uniform of the United States Army and without a uniform, undercover as a Central Intelligence Agency clandestine operative. He has also served in a variety of other capacities, but at the moment, perhaps the most important one is as the driving force behind andmagazine.com. You can find it at Substack, and I very strongly encourage you to do so. You can also find him here just about every week. Sam Faddis, it's great to have you back. Welcome, sir.
Great to be here as always, Frank.
You have just published an important essay about all of this. You describe it as the Bolsheviks make their move at Substack. Read us in on what your sense is of this so-called disinformation governance board, Sam.
Right. Well, the reference in the article obviously is to the fact that the Bolsheviks did not come to power in Russia as some sort of majority power
Mm.
party. They staged a coup after a popular revolution and basically shoved everybody else out and imposed totalitarian control. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. The Biden administration has no intention of trusting to the forces of democracy and free speech. What they're going to do is control the discourse, and they have actually a vast array of weapons they have deployed here. It's a war on free speech. I mean, the essence of free speech, right, is to say what other people disagree with. You don't need a, it's valueless if all you can say is what the government tells you you can say. That's
Right.
no longer a right. And so,
Oh, certainly no longer free, that's for sure.
yeah. And so what we have here is the next move, and something that's been ongoing since Joe sat down in the White House with this new lady Jankowicz, who's running this entity. And it is explicitly designed to wage war against what they call either misinformation or disinformation, depending on who's talking. And the definition of that is what they disagree with.
Hmm.
So it is
So
a
it is
blatant.
essentially a political definition of disinformation, not any objective sense of trying to prevent factually wrong content from being put forward. That's bad enough, honestly,
Yeah,
in a free speech
right,
environment. But you're
right.
saying basically this is just all about partisan politics.
100% blatantly, this is a black and white thing. That is what is happening. And you notice that one of the first things out of Mayorkas's mouth the other day was in sort of tiptoeing around defining this, which they don't really want to do. The first thing out of his mouth is he's talking about election disinformation. Well, this is in the context of what is now in run up to 2022, frankly, an expanded Democratic effort to steal yet another election. And we're serving notice that if you talk about that and try to expose that, you're going to be facing the consequences. We're weaponizing intelligence and law enforcement against you.
Sam, you have been spending a lot of time over the past year and a half or so now, focused like a laser on evidence of electoral fraud in your native Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Um, you know, wherever you speak with respect
Yes.
to the fact that this would not be the first election that would be interfered with in this fashion. And I'm sure that this sharpens greatly your concern about what these guys are up to, if indeed this is just essentially a prelude to trying to ensure that certain things can be said and certain things can't be said, and the people who will determine which is which are partisan political figures like this Nina Jackowitz, who will be apparently running this disinformation governance board. Tell us a little bit more about her background and why this is concerning.
Well, she's just like so many of the folks that are involved in this. She's a Democratic Party hack, and her entire background is promoting. I mean, name a narrative that the Democratic Party has trotted out over the last X number of years, which is designed to say attack Trump and the MAGA movement and so forth. She's been
Well,
at the
let's focus on Hunter Biden's laptop just as
well,
one example.
Sure. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation. It's not real. There's nothing to see here. All day, every day from this lady. Trump is a Russian stooge. Trump is under the control of Moscow. All day, every day from this lady. She's never backed off. She's never acknowledged what anybody with eyes can see now, which is this is all lies. She continues to peddle that. And she says the other day she tweeted something about how the concept of free speech on Twitter made her shudder.
Hmm.
I
This
mean,
is in
this
the
is a
context of Elon Musk's efforts to
Elon
bring
Musk
it
taking.
back, now underscoring how much we've lost in that regard. So, Sam, we have to take a short break. When we come back, I want to get into another of the driving forces behind this agenda of essentially politicizing and weaponizing government control of fundamental freedoms, notably, but not exclusively, freedom of speech, with a fellow by the name of Joshua Geltzer, who you have been doing some serious research into over the past few months, and I think have really exposed as a driving and quite malevolent force behind this kind of agenda that you're talking about. And if, as I said in my opening comments, we don't get this right, we're going to find that we've lost our country. And it will be to people like Jackowitz and Geltzer who have in mind, well, as Barack Obama put it, a fundamentally transformed America, one that is unrecognizable and certainly not the kind of place that we want to bequeath to our children and our grandchildren. We're going to talk about that and much more with the great Sam Faddis on the other side of this very short message. Stay tuned.